Over the past decade, India heavily marketed a specific image to the world. The Prime Minister declared the nation the ultimate net security provider, positioning India as the absolute guardian of the Indian Ocean region. To reinforce that dominance, the Indian Navy hosted Milan 2026. Milan 2026 is a massive, multinational naval exercise hosted by India to build maritime alliances. They welcomed the Iranian warship with a military parade in Visakhapatnam and promoted the event with the hashtag Bridges of Friendship. But on the morning of March 4th, as the Iris Dana sailed home, a U.S. Navy submarine intercepted it roughly 40 nautical miles off the coast of Sri Lanka. Without warning, the submarine fired an Mk-48 torpedo. An Mk-48 is a heavyweight, acoustic homing weapon designed by the U.S. military to obliterate deep-water targets. The Iranian warship sank in a matter of seconds. 87 soldiers drowned in the wreckage, while the Sri Lankan Navy had to scramble to rescue the 32 survivors. A lethal military strike happened in India's proclaimed backyard, destroying a ship returning directly from an Indian naval exercise. The government in New Delhi did absolutely nothing. The ruling party's official account simply tweeted, "Not our business." When you ignore a lethal attack on a naval partner, just miles from your own shores, you forfeit the title of regional protector. India chose silence over security, abandoning the very maritime boundaries it claimed to defend. To understand why, look at this map of the Middle East. It shows the sheer scale of the U.S. and Israeli offensive against Iran, with over 2,000 targets bombed. Immediately, Iran retaliated, launching missiles at 27 American military bases across 9 nations. They successfully hit the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. The Fifth Fleet commands all American naval forces in the Arabian Gulf and Red Sea, making this a direct blow to U.S. military operations. 48 hours before the joint strikes on Iran began, the Indian Prime Minister was in Israel. He upgraded the bilateral relationship to a special strategic partnership and referred to Israel as the fatherland. Israeli officials later confirmed that the operational opportunity for the strike only came up after the Indian Prime Minister left. India's silence is a calculated, one-sided alignment with Israeli and American military objectives. This level of submission contradicts the foundation of India's geopolitical history. For decades, every prime minister adhered strictly to the doctrine of strategic autonomy. It's a framework where a country maintains independent foreign policy choices without bending to the demands of foreign military alliances. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Even though the Soviets were India's primary military ally, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi stood her ground and publicly opposed the intervention. That independence spanned generations. Atal Bihari Vajpayee flatly refused American demands to send Indian troops to Iraq. Later, Manmohan Singh stood at the United Nations and openly condemned Western military interventions in Libya. Today's administration operates completely differently. When Iran launched strikes against Gulf countries, New Delhi tweeted aggressive condemnations immediately. Yet when American and Israeli forces bombed Iranian cities, killing hundreds of civilians, the Indian government had absolutely nothing to say. The moral high ground that defined Indian diplomacy for over half a century has been discarded. The country has traded its historical backbone for the fleeting approval of Washington. This animated map highlights the Strait of Hormuz. Iran shut down this route, severing trade lines. This threatens India, importing 55% of its oil from the Middle East. As this chart shows, India's strategic oil reserves plummeted from 74 down to a critical 25 days. As fuel stocks reached critical levels, the U.S. Treasury issued a public statement granting India a temporary 30-day window to purchase Russian oil. It was a formal grant of permission for one sovereign state to trade with another. When a nation requires a 30-day waiver from a third party to fuel its economy, its energy security is no longer an internal decision. Strategic autonomy is effectively replaced by external oversight. The situation is about to get much worse. The CIA, America's principal foreign intelligence service, is currently executing a plan to arm Kurdish rebel groups inside Iran, hoping to spark a violent civil uprising against the government. We have seen this exact playbook before. When Western intelligence agencies armed localized splinter groups in Iraq and Syria, it created a massive power vacuum that led directly to the catastrophic rise of ISIS. The ripples of that kind of engineered chaos will inevitably reach India's shores, much like the wreckage of the Iris Dina currently resting at the bottom of the ocean. New Delhi wanted a seat at the global superpower table. Instead, by abandoning its neutrality to act as an American proxy, India sacrificed the stability of its own region and left its sovereign future vulnerable to the shifting priorities of a foreign superpower.